And it's so twisted because my uncle is like, essentially, just to take a moment of black and white thinking, is essentially a villain. And like somehow that is a reason to listen to me, his niece, is something that I've sort of dealt with my whole life, which I still deal with to this day. But it is growing up as the niece of the leader of Scientology. There were many things that were harder about it, and then there were some things that were easier about it. The thing that still happens to me today all the time is that every other adult who dealt with me would tell me, that person's only your friend because of what your last name is. You think you're important, but the only reason anybody would ever listen to you is because of who your uncle is. Even after leaving, even after I started speaking out about Scientology, they would be like, she just wants her 15 minutes of fame because of who her uncle is. And even now, like critics or like haters, whatever you want to call them, who say things are like, the only reason anybody listens to her is because of who her uncle is. I know logically that it doesn't make sense. It's just I've heard it like nonstop. Anytime I was even bad, it was like, oh, you thought you could get away with this because you're Jenna Miscavige. It still keeps me so small all the time because I'm like, who do I think I am?
Right.
Like, why would anybody listen to me? So I have to always give this explanation about why I should be listened to, or...
So there's a whole bunch of things here to unpack, but the first thing to me is because of your last name and your uncle, you weren't seen for who you were. You were seen through the lens of your uncle. So nobody ever saw you. They always saw you as some form of your uncle, some extension of your uncle. So you never had your own identity in anybody's mind. You were always the niece of. But secondly, what they're doing is really a shame response. What does a person do who feels I'm a nothing, I don't have any value, I'm no good? Well, you name drop. You get in somebody else's shadow and you kind of become the moon to their sun, and they reflect off of you, and you get a little bit of limelight because of who they are. Once you name drop, you create entitlement. Well, I'm connected to them, so I'm entitled now. So I would suspect that everybody kind of within Scientology is very much shame driven. It's a shame culture. They're expecting you to be shame driven, and they're expecting you to use your uncle as a name drop to get you entitlement, to get you extra privileges, to get you so you get away from having to go through consequences, all kinds of things that they're expecting you to use because they think you have the same shame. So they're projecting really onto you kind of what they would do.